Welcome to In the Thick of It, a podcast brought to you by Answering the Call. I'm David Fuller, the founder and director of Answering the Call. In the thick of it. You know, there's a lot of people who like to stay on the fringe. They tend to like keeping things safe. And then there are others who dive into what God is doing in the world and around them. Actually, they're ordinary people, but they're doing extraordinary things as they take the gospel to regions that are difficult to reach. Welcome to In the Thick of It. Today, we're going to take a break from the jungles of South Sudan and the deserts of the Middle East, and instead we find ourselves in the lush countryside of Costa Rica. This is another of Answering the Call's fields. It operates a little different from our other fields, as you might well imagine. Today, we'll be with Jason and Sarah Smith, who head up this field by way of a retreat center of Answering the Call known as Refugio Solté. It's one of my favorite places in the world. And in fact, Jason and Sarah are among my favorite people in the world. They left the United States many years ago with a commitment of 1 year. Their job was to oversee the construction of the retreat center, Refugio Solté. But you know what? They're still here, still at Refugio Solté, having been given a vision from God about the retreat center and what it would do and what it would become. Refugio Solté has trained pastors from Costa Rica and also from neighboring countries. It has provided an escape for children who are caught in poverty in Costa Rica. It has been a place of refuge for Christian workers from all across the world, some of them whom have needed a place to hide while being hunted by extremists in their host countries. We could never have envisioned all that Refugio Solté would become as we began construction years ago. Jason and Sarah, of course, have become good friends. They're just ordinary people who are doing some extraordinary things. Listen in today as we get to hear about what God is doing through them and through Refugio Solté in the beautiful country of Costa Rica. So welcome to a podcast that I've been looking forward to with my buddies here. Jason.
What's up, buddy?
Sarah.
Hello.
You're going to notice the scenery's a little bit different. We're coming at you from Costa Rica. This is one of the fields of Answering the Call, Refugio Solté. What does Refugio Solté mean?
It means the refuge where I let go.
Ah, all right. That's
Kind of
creative.
fancy. It's fancy.
Well, that's because you're a fancy guy.
Well,
We've been working together, of course, for a long time. How long?
14 years in January.
That's hard, but I was a young guy then. Maybe a little skinnier.
Me too.
I think we all were.
I had more hair.
Yeah.
Maybe less
I
beard.
had a little darker hair.
Me too, buddy. So we've been working together for 14 years or so, but everybody that's watching this, they don't all know you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Jason Smith, and I was born and raised in Louisiana, deep south. And
That is indeed deep south.
that's the deep, deep south. So yeah, born and raised there, spent my whole life there until I moved here. Never moved anywhere in my life. And when God brought us to come on board with Answering the Call, first time I ever really moved outside of an hour from my parents' home. And so we, Sarah and I, packed our bags 14 years ago, about this time. And
Okay, so you came from Louisiana.
yeah.
You a Louisiana girl?
I'm not.
Where are
I'm
you
from
from?
a little further south.
Okay.
in Louisiana.
I didn't know you could get further south in Louisiana.
You can.
And where was
To
that?
another third world country. No.
A different third world country.
Different third world country. Now, I'm Sarah Thompson originally, and I was born and raised in Honduras. Lived also kind of in between my childhood, 7 years in Chile. And when I was 18, I moved to the United States to go to college.
Yeah.
And somehow happened to go
Louisiana.
to Louisiana, New Orleans, and met Jason there, and the rest is history.
Well,
And we're here.
sort of. I mean, that was 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
All right, so then you guys meet, and how did, I remember your first trip now.
Yeah.
It was quite a trip.
Yeah. It's quite
We had a good time.
Yeah, good time.
And, but tell me a little bit from both your perspectives.
Yeah.
You know, like how did that work? Like kind of God's call in your
Yeah,
life
yeah.
to come to Costa Rica.
Yeah, so for me, it with my exposure to answering the call actually kind of became, it came before I met Sarah. I was a pretty new believer, and a pastor in Louisiana that was mentoring me was like best buddies with your dad
Yeah.
back in the day. And I remember, I want to say like sometime in the early 2000s, maybe 2003-ish, I remember he showed me a video or something, and it was answering the call, and this cool guy, David Fuller.
Very
with
cool.
More
Especially-
hair.
More hair, yeah. Especially
Dark
at the time.
beard,
Cool.
yeah. Yeah. No, but, and yeah, so I remember getting exposed to answering the calls, vision, and just how you guys reach into difficult to reach places. And I was just fascinated by that. It just like sparked something in my heart. And then I guess over like a couple of years' time, you and I crossed paths several times through this pastor in Louisiana. We had like lunch together one time, me
Yeah,
and you,
I
and
remember that.
some others, and so like God just kind of kept crossing our paths, and it's like, so as Sarah and I met, and I just shared with her like how much I loved things happening in the Middle East or other fields that like really was like answering the calls deal going on, and I was just super passionate about that. And then I began working for the son of this pastor. And one day he approaches, well, by this time, Sarah and I were married, and we were just working jobs and going to school and all this stuff. And this boss of mine came up to me and said, hey, you want to move to Costa Rica? And I was like, well, I mean, maybe we'll win. He's like, in 2 months. And I thought, wow, I honestly didn't know where Costa Rica was. But I definitely knew, I knew it was south, somewhere south of the border. But, it was a pretty neat experience, just because we weren't really looking for something that, and I knew like what was going on with answering the calls involvement here, but I mean, we had just gotten married. We had been married for 3 weeks at this time.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had our life plan, and it didn't include Costa Rica. So we had just come back from our honeymoon, and Jason came back from his first day at work, really, saying that our boss wanted us to move to Costa Rica for a year to manage the construction project of a refuge center that Answering the Call was wanting to build in Costa Rica, but that they needed us to leave in 2 months. And we had these about 5 pretty serious commitments that we couldn't get out of for the next 6 months. And when we prayed about it, we actually felt a lot of excitement about the idea, but the timing was just completely off for us.
Yeah.
So we met with him and his wife, and we're like, thanks so much, for thinking of us. Like, we would love to do that, but there's no way we could do something like that until January of next year, which was about 4 or 5 months from then. And they said, well, great, we just found out we can't start the construction project till January of next year. So we kind of looked at each other and we're like, okay, I mean, whatever, if God opens the door, we're in. And it was interesting because we had to raise our own money for it because it was a volunteer position. And within about 2 months, we had enough to move down here for a year.
That's not typical.
No, it's not. And I've been in missions my whole life, and I knew that wasn't typical. And so it just seemed that the Lord was opening the doors wide for that. But really, our only understanding and intention in coming here was we show up, we see this project through, for a year.
Yeah, so the
and then we're out.
initial
Yeah.
commitment was to come down here for a year.
1 year.
1 year.
It's been longer than a year.
Yeah.
A little longer.
And I
2
remember
kids
this.
later.
I remember this process of every year you guys are coming to me and go, okay, we're good for 1 more year.
Yeah.
And we did that
Yeah.
5 or 6 times
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least, maybe
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And then finally there was a day you came and you're like, actually, we're just going to stay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I thought that, 6 years ago,
Yeah.
but I was happy to
Happy
wait
that we
for you to
came
catch
around.
up. Yeah.
And behind the scenes for us on that, going into our 5th year, we're just like, okay, Lord, like this temporary thing, like if you have us here, we want to put down roots and really intentionally invest in the community. And if not, then we need to go home, start where we left off. And he just gave us a simple answer that stands true to this day. And he just simply said, stay until I tell you to leave.
Yeah.
And
He hadn't told you to leave, has he?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
We still have till December 31st. but
Well,
that's kind of the time frame.
So far,
keep me
he's had us
posted.
here.
Well, no, but isn't that like how the Lord does a lot? Like,
Yeah.
He gives you, I've seen this in my life, He kind of gives you piece by piece.
Yeah.
I remember I was in seminary, and it was like the guys in my class, they had this call from God when they were 6 years old, and they started preaching at 9.
Some people have this
Yeah.
thing, yeah.
But me, it was like just a little bit at a time.
Yeah, and that's what we have experienced. It's like, I maybe to put it in words, it's like we had a call from God to be part of His kingdom, and what that fleshed out in, it was almost like we didn't really care how He wanted to do that. And so as the opportunities kind of unfolded, it was like, well, this is amazing. It's like now, obviously, we look back in hindsight of 14 years, we're like, wow, God really did call us to that.
It's kind of
But at the moment, it didn't even feel like
it's
that.
a good lesson, I think. With the Lord, a lot of times it's just take the next step.
Yeah.
And we don't even really have to know what the second, third, and fourth, and fifth step is. It's like just take the next step.
Yeah.
And I think what he does in that process is that he teaches us the absolute dependency that we have on him. I think if we had known from the get-go, you're going to be there for 20 years, it's like you try to make it something that wasn't meant to be. You try to take it and make it your own, run with it. And the Lord hasn't designed us for that. He knows we're dependent on him, but sometimes we don't compute that. And so having to depend on him 1 year at a time, every step of the way, having to be faithful to come back to him every year saying, Lord, all right, now what? And him guiding us in that. And so I think the beauty of that is, one, it keeps us from running with a vision in a direction that isn't aligned with what God's doing. And it teaches us our dependency on him. And it keeps it fresh, having to come back and hear from him every time. And then he can take it in whatever direction he wants to.
Yeah. I think for me, it's more like, okay, if the Lord at the beginning of ATC, if the Lord told me, okay, what I'm going to need you to go across this border and go across this border and interact with this military movement, and these rebels are going to become great friends of yours.
Yeah.
And then I want you to go into some more radical Islamic areas to preach the gospel. It's like, I think if I had all that, I'd be like,
no.
Kind of hard to sign up for it.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking when we were talking. It's like, look back over the last 14 years, and it's like, okay, at the forefront of that, if it's like, hey, over the next 14 years of your life, all of this is going to unfold, and you're going to hit some amazing highs and some amazing lows.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're amazing,
Well,
but they're amazingly
they're
low.
amazing in how low they can go. Can you go? And it's like, well, no, I'm not going to sign up for that. But I would never change or exchange any of it.
And I'll tell you something. I may be from Honduras, but I'm a city girl. And
She likes
this
is not exactly city.
She likes the city.
There's no coffee shop in that corner over there.
Yeah. She likes the city.
She gotta get a city fix.
I like a city, and I think there's something about not knowing. Again, back to the dependency on the Lord. It's like He knows we could be overwhelmed, and He's good in His timing and
gentle. Gentle. The older I get, the more gentle I understand the Lord is. You know what I mean? That's kind of in the way He deals with me, in the way I see Him dealing with others, even in the way He kind of instructs me to deal with others. The older I get, the more gentle I understand He is. Okay, well that's you guys.
Right.
Now, because a lot of people that listen to this, they understand ATC fields to a certain degree. They might, understand South Sudan or the Middle East or South Asia or Nuba. They might understand that and what's going on there, but not have a total understanding of what's going on in our field here.
Can
So-
I backtrack for a second?
Of
So
course.
for me,
We're live.
Jason had told me about this ministry, Answering the Call, and how there was a guy that ran it that he admired very much, and he was very interested in the Middle East as well. And he showed me a video, and it was a video of Congo. And I'll never forget, I was sitting in, our pretty meager living room at the time, and just watching that, and I just started weeping because it struck a chord in my heart. I'm clearly very familiar with missions and with poverty and needs worldwide. It's what I grew up in. I get it.
Right.
I grew up in a third world country. So it wasn't anything new to me. But to see how God was working through ATC, it was new to me. To see the way in which he was operating in these countries, which was different than, not better than or worse than, just different than what I was used to, it struck a chord in me, and something shifted in my mind. And so
This is interesting what you're saying. What was different? Can you quantify
could I
that?
put my finger on it? I don't know how to describe it. Maybe the approach, maybe
Yeah.
the relationship building, maybe the understanding that that the gospel goes hand in hand with meeting people's needs.
Yeah.
And not that the ministries I was a part of didn't do that, but it was just different. And it was the level of being willing to go places where nobody was willing to go. Like my parents did that in a way, but it was so exciting to see someone else do that, because the mission circles that I ran in, you didn't see a lot of that. And I mean, my parents are heroes to me because they did do something similar. They went to a very difficult place at a difficult time with no one. And to see someone else doing that in places that I was unfamiliar with was really
never told me
important.
That before.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So when our boss contacted us about doing kind of this random job, realizing that we would get to work with the people on the other side of that video was super exciting. It was like, oh, we're going to be connected to that. Like,
Little did you know.
Little did we know. And so that was really key. Getting to work with Answering the Call, completely different field, kind of different vision strategy, I guess, at the time. But that was exciting for us, for me, to get to be a part of that.
So you little did you know, you got the good, the bad, and the ugly. And after 14 years, you got to see a little bit of all that.
Package deal.
Package deal. That's kind of the way it works, right? And so, okay, so now I'm flashing back forward to tell us about this field, like Refugio Solté. What is it? What's going on here?
Yeah. So Refugio Solté is a retreat center, and we focus on three principal things: is providing rest, renewal, and training. And the group of people that we look to do that is with current and emerging leaders. And so we create retreats that are going to really tie into different ministries, whether that's parachurch, whether that's missions organizations, the local church, and how can we come alongside these guys, encourage them, uplift them. We are in the middle of the jungle here, and how are we going to have an impact in the deepest, darkest slums in the metropolitan of San Jose?
Right.
In just all reality, like, unless we're going in and out there, we're not going to have a first-hand impact in that place.
Yeah, well, interestingly, he's talking about the deepest, darkest slum, San Jose, and our planning over the last few days. We're talking about in this field, not only the deepest, darkest slums in San Jose, but also maybe some hard to reach neighboring countries to Costa Rica.
Yeah. And so just based on geography, like how are we positioned in the middle of the primary rainforest going to be impacting those places? And the way that God's kind of brought that together is serving, blessing, encouraging, uplifting those leaders that are investing there, or those who are emerging up out of that. And it's like the domino effect that comes out of it. So
a lot of that's happened through the years.
yeah.
You think of it, we're saying, okay, it's a it's a retreat center.
Yeah.
We've used the phrase a place of refuge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can distinctly remember coming out of, well, I was coming out of East Congo and had been in there a couple, 3 times that year, and had also been in a pretty tight place in the Middle East, Yemen.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a particularly intense year. You know, what I have seen is, okay, I don't want to get like too hokey about it, but you know, it's almost like this concept of an open heaven.
Yeah.
Okay, so like for me at least,
Yeah.
can't speak for anybody else. Although I know that a lot of people would agree with this. For me, it's like this open heaven kind of thing here, where you know the presence of God is close, and in the presence of God, like that's where we find healing. And so for me personally, I remember coming out of Congo, and to be honest, like my head, my psyche was not, my spirit was not in a good place at all.
Yeah.
And as you both well know, I'm not real handy as a builder.
Oh, we
It's not
know.
that funny.
It is hilarious.
It
But
makes for good memories.
it does make me get married. But I am one heck of a weed eater.
You're one heck of a weed eater, man.
And this place, man, I remember coming here after Congo for a couple summers. And this is when we were just clearing things.
Yeah.
I remember day after day,
Bushwhacker.
bushwhacking,
Yeah.
right over there.
Yeah, yeah.
And day after day after day for hours a day.
Yeah.
German bushwhacking.
Yeah.
And it was healing, man. It was healing.
Yeah.
There's something special that God does here. Anybody I've talked to, anybody
Yeah.
that has come, there's something special he does, and it always happens.
Yeah, it's kind of just like this recurring thought, recurring feedback that we get from, I mean, we've hosted people from, I mean, it's probably tracking in pretty close to about 30 different countries here.
They've come here.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy deal. And it's like, I mean, if I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times. And that's like, over the years, like, I don't even remember necessarily how it started, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's called Refugio Solté, which is the refuge where I let go, but we started also, we just like nicknamed it Abba's Mountain.
I got a T-shirt that says Abba's Mountain.
Yeah, and some people even kind of know it more on the Abba's Mountain side, but you know, that thing of, I mean, we're talking about people from almost nearly 30 different countries, all walks of life, from poverty to riches, have flowed through here, and God just meets them in a special, intimate way where they're able to just say back to Him, Abba, Father. And it looks different for every person, every little group, but for whatever reason, it's hard to like put words to it. He does it here.
We've often talked about there are plenty of beautiful places on this planet that you could go and be inspired by the nature, by the beauty. It's not, I mean, this is a beautiful, unique place, but there are plenty like that. So like, what sets this apart? Like, why? I mean,
I'm not sure.
and so we've often wondered about that, and the conclusion we've come to is that for whatever reason, the Lord has set this place apart to meet His people, to nurture, to encourage, to heal, to inspire, to draw deeper into His Word, even to be trained in very practical ways, because we do a lot of teaching and training here, and we partner with a lot of people who come and teach here as well. And what sets this place apart is simply what He chooses to do here. And it's out of everyone's control. We can set the stage, we can set it up as nicely as we possibly can, we can have a servant's heart, make great meals, laugh, you know, provide the experience. But the true experience here is how people connect with the Lord here, and He gets all the credit for that, because that's not something anyone can create. And so for whatever reason, He has set it apart for what He does, and that's what makes it so
It's that
special.
zone, right? I've experienced this in, gosh, many countries. It's that zone where all of a sudden you've tried to set the stage, everything, you've done all you can do. You've tried to set the stage, you've planned as much as you can plan.
Yeah.
And then, like, something, it starts, I don't know how to describe that. You'll know what I'm talking about. It's like, it starts happening, right? The Lord starts moving.
Yeah.
There's a manifestation of his movement. There's a sense of his movement. Like, it's clear, he's moving.
Yeah.
And you start realizing, like, this is so far beyond me that I don't have anything to do with this.
Yeah.
And to me, like, that's the zone, right?
Yeah.
That's the jazz, man.
Yeah.
That's like why we do what we do.
Yes.
'Cause when you get in that zone and he's like moving, you can't explain it, and you're basically just kind of riding along.
Yeah.
That's the jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
the
back to your weed whacking days, there's also been a phrase coined here that really I'd say it's Jason's phrase, but I'm gonna say it for him.
we can all have it.
We can
Yeah,
share.
we can share
Can we
this
share?
phrase.
I mean,
While
It's
the
a kingdom
mountain
principle.
isn't ours, it's
Uh-huh.
his.
uh-huh.
We can share the phrase.
Yeah, we can share the
Okay.
phrase. And a phrase we often use here because we are in the jungle and the nature of this place is that it requires a lot of work. And it's that the kingdom of heaven is about preaching the gospel and cutting grass. But let me tell you something, as you well know, there's a lot of grass
A lot of
cut
grass.
here.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
lots.
dishes to wash and a lot of floors to clean and it gets dirty.
Okay.
every
All right.
day.
This I might be taking this too far.
Alright.
You can correct my theology here if
Alright,
I'm inaccurate.
okay.
But remember in Genesis, and he's like, he kind of gives man the mandate, and one of the mandates is subdue the earth. Okay, there's like this kingdom mandate to subdue the earth. When I was whacking weeds,
Yeah.
and occasionally pipes that I wasn't
I
supposed
particularly
to,
remember pipes busting.
Main pipes.
main pipes
Main pipes.
Yeah.
that made water spurt,
Yeah.
those pipes.
Yeah, those.
But apart from the pipes, when I was
Yeah.
whacking the weeds, I had this really strong sense, like it was like that kingdom, mandate to subdue the earth. It implies stewardship.
Yeah.
It implies several things, but like subdue the earth. I had this, like being here and in the weeds.
Engaging.
It was like I felt like I was engaging kingdom work,
Yeah.
the same as if I was, riding a shipment of food across a hot zone in the Sudan.
Yeah.
It was. I think that was kind of the healing part of it.
Yeah.
So I like your phrase.
Yeah.
The kingdom of God is
Preaching the gospel.
preaching the gospel and
Cutting grass.
cutting grass. I'm not sure which I like more.
I think there's something very unique about this place because we host a lot of people who are already in ministry. And one of the things I think that it does is that it can strip away whatever identity we think we've picked up of importance. And I don't know how else to say it than to just call it what it is. And there's something about showing up to a place, especially for leaders in ministry, showing up to a place where you can just be Abba's child. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing you have to
You don't have to perform. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's that I think has been a really unique thing about here, and just the humility of that, of like washing dishes for a bunch of people, like loving someone through service in a different way, cutting grass, like understanding that it's all important. And I think maybe we see that side a lot because most of our job here, even though we do get a lot of time of relationship building and counseling and teaching and all that, honestly, at least 80-90% of our job requires physical labor, like getting the place ready for that other 10% of
Yeah.
of deep ministry. And there's something humbling about that. There's something that reminds you that especially Christ exemplified that. He didn't just go around preaching all the time. He spent time with people. He washed feet. He was interested in people catching fish. It's like he was in all of it. He was in life.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that also plays is strong here is that it is a safe place for people to come and just really truly be Abba's child.
And it's like this thing of like subduing the earth. Like, you're doing that and you're like, oh, like this is ministering to me, right? And the thing is like, one of the things I've always looked at it as we've just dug out ditches or cleaned toilets or cutting the grass. I mean, like, you rolled in this week, and like, it's probably been really healing and really ministering to you. And
Yeah.
it's like you look around and it's amazing and it's beautiful here, right? And it's like it came through this subduing, and so it's like the work for years of just cutting grass is now ministering to you in your time, bringing rest, bringing clarity, bringing peace, and the Lord's using that. And so it's like we tend to belittle these small things in the
Yeah,
kingdom
we
of God,
do.
and we
We
don't
do.
realize, like,
Yeah. Not so
sometimes
small after all.
they're not so small.
I'll never forget, there was this retreat. There was an intern from San Jose, a young man from San Jose that came to intern with us. And we worked, it was just the three of us back then. And we worked so hard to get this place ready for a retreat that we were doing. And we worked for months, just the three of us, hacking away. Him cutting grass, me cleaning. Yeah. And he hadn't experienced a retreat here yet. And I'll never forget, the night that everyone showed up, he came into the kitchen just beaming from ear to ear, and I'd never seen him look so happy. And I was like, what's going on? Why are you smiling so much? And he's like, I get it now. And I was like, what? And he's like, I understand now why we have been working so hard. It's for this. Like, I see what God is doing here, and it's amazing. And he was just so excited to see the fruit of all that labor. And I think that is a great lesson for all of us.
Yeah.
To never underestimate when the Lord asks us to do something that isn't comfortable, that requires sacrifice, and honestly, the work that nobody can see. It's the behind the scenes stuff. Like when he asks you to do something that doesn't have a lot of limelight or recognition, just obey and do it, because you have no idea what he's working toward. And to trust him in that, and to be willing to do the hard work, to be willing to do the dirty work, because the Lord always has a big, impactful picture behind that. Even if it takes 10 years or 14 years, to just be willing to obey and then sit back and watch him develop that sacrifice, whatever it was that you just did. It's always, if there's something I've learned here, it's that it's always worth it to obey the Lord, always.
Yeah, so, ATC, we say our strategy is reaching people in difficult places, right? It just strikes me that how consistent that vision is with what's going on here. Because maybe some of the people who are in the most difficult places are current and emerging leaders. You're saying from 30 different countries. I'm just thinking of the hundreds of people who come here from 30 countries. And I know personally, I've come here before when I was in a difficult place. And it's really cool to see the Lord kind of weave that vision into all this.
Yeah.
You guys know, I'm thinking of, one of the guys we worked with overseas is currently in another country. He's being persecuted. They've threatened to kidnap his children and her child, and they've threatened even worse. Actually, he had surgery this week because of how badly he was beaten. And we're looking, it just strikes me as like we're looking for him and his family to come here soon to find the healing that they need, to kind of get their course set on in another direction, because there's not going to be any way possible for them to stay where they are. And so reaching people in difficult places, it looks a little different here, but it's the same vision.
Yeah,
It's the
We-
same
we
heart
don't-
of God in a different package.
we tend to think of it in terms of geography.
Yeah, and now we're thinking a little more
More
expansively.
spiritual, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I could never have imagined on your first trip down, which was quite a trip.
It was.
We're not going to go into detail
Yeah.
here, all of that trip entailed. But your first trip down, and then the first time I met you was actually in Roanoke.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was a trip in and of itself.
Mhm.
Seems like whenever we're together, there's a pretty good trip, right?
kind of recurred.
A lot of work, but there's always a good time.
There's always a
Always
good
a
time.
good time.
I could never have imagined all that the Lord would have done in your lives and mine and our lives together and our families' lives together. I could never imagine that. I just want to thank you, like, your faithfulness to the Lord, your faithfulness to His vision, even your faithfulness to us and the organization. Like, I guess we don't talk about it a lot, but it doesn't go unnoticed. And you guys are awesome. Let's do, I did hear you earlier talk about 20 years, so I know I got at least 6 more. And after that, we'll see, minimum. And then after that, we'll see. Huh?
Sounds like a deal.
Last comment?
There are 2 other people involved in this that are a huge part of what Abba's doing here. Could I invite them?
You can.
Luca and Nico. Would y'all
You're
just
here.
come over?
Oh, just come and wave.
Just
Come
wave.
and wave.
Just a little quick
Just
wave.
wave.
Just like a little peace sign.
Yeah,
These
that's
guys.
right. Don't bump that camera on the way. Yeah.
These guys are our sons.
They were excited about that.
They like
Super.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, bingo. We love them so much, and they are a huge part of Abba's Mountain in this ministry, and we're so proud of them, and we're so grateful that the Lord has seen fit to let them be a part of His mountain, and they are growing up to be young men who love to serve people here. So we're grateful.
And
for that.
thankfully not over-influenced by soccer.
Nah.
It's still
Not
like
at all.
American football.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about.
Fantasy, boy.
Fantasy football. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. All right, so most of you guys have been around and understand our rapid fire question round.
Sounds scary, but
It's a little scary. Now you're just, look, we're not asking for a sermon here.
All
We're
right.
asking for just a
Quick answer.
that's
Got
it.
it.
okay.
rapid fire question number 1.
All right.
If you could put anything on a billboard and proclaim it to the world, what would it say?
Anything on a billboard, I
Proclaim it to the world.
Claim it to the world. Abba loves you.
Sarah?
The Lord is the absolute best. He's amazing.
All right.
All right.
Now I'm gonna do this different because
All right.
you had time to think,
I did.
Yeah.
and
I
so
did.
now I'm gonna start with her.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
that was my first thought.
Okay, well, that's
I
good.
feel like we need a
Rapid fire.
button to like press.
How many
Okay.
points was that one worth?
You know, everybody's a winner. Everybody gets a trophy.
I
Oh.
like this.
Yeah.
So that-
We're used to that these days. aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Question number 2.
All right.
When you think about success, who comes to mind and why?
Success. You actually, you enjoy.
She stole my answer.
See,
No, you
that's
can,
why we
you're
need
like
the
blowing
button.
smoke up the boss's skirt.
No, no.
Who? All right, so go
And
ahead,
why? Because I've seen you guys love people through thick and thin, and I've seen that your success doesn't come from seeking success. It comes from being genuine, from loving the Lord with all your heart, and being faithful to Him no matter what. And being faithful to people no matter what.
Thank you
That
for
to
saying.
me, in my book, that's
That's
true
success.
success.
All right, I'm giving a little different take because she
Okay.
stole my answer.
Okay, all right. Well, then you go.
Okay, but here's what I'd say about it. What's the question? Like a person of success, or when I think of
When
success?
you, let me reread
All right,
that for
all
you,
right.
Jason.
Okay.
When you think about success, who comes to mind
All right,
and why?
all right. You enjoy. All right, but
A different
here's what I
why.
say. You're surrounded with people all your lives. You've poured your heart and soul into God's kingdom, and you raised 3 kids in the middle of it. And all 3 kids are super cool and love God. All right?
Yeah, that part's special.
That sounds
Yeah.
like, oh, that seems like a natural process. But
Not
No,
necessarily.
that's
it's
not.
hard to do.
And to me, it's like we can build these earthly kingdoms. We can build all this cool stuff, and we're reaching out here and reaching out there, and it would be super easy to forget that you had 2 boys and a girl at home,
Yeah.
and you never did. And
So
so
much
for
for
me,
no preaching, huh?
so
Yeah, he's preaching.
So anyway, that's for me. It's like, I mean, that's like what I would hope to aspire to do.
I appreciate that. This is going to be an easier one, at
Okay.
least for me. I don't know if
Okay.
it's for you.
Uh-oh.
I'll start with you, Jason.
How many points?
What is a life-changing book that you would recommend?
I would say, I just forgot the name of it. It's Brennan Manning and the Ragamuffin Gospel.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Life-changing book.
The one I read lately, it's called The Prodigal God.
I haven't read
It was
that.
it was a good.
The Prodigal God. Who writes that?
Tim Keller. He's a pastor based out of New York.
Yeah, from the Upper East Side. That's okay. I'm gonna check that one.
It
out.
was good. I don't know if it's life changing, but I liked it. It was good.
All right, last one. This was easy. What platforms are you? You're on. You have website. Tell us about websites, social media, all that. So
All right.
people can
Yeah.
find you.
Yeah.
Guys, you want to pray for these guys.
Okay.
So
all right.
how can they find you?
Website is refugiosolte.com. That's refugiosolte.com. That's our website.
C-O-M. Nice.
No, yeah, COM. That's how you can find us on Facebook, on the website. I think we have Instagram, and yeah, I think that's all we have.
refugiosolté.com.
Yeah, or Refugio Solté on Facebook and Instagram.
Perfect. Guys, keep praying for Jason and Sarah. A lot of you, of course, know them. You've been touched and affected by them through the years. So, keep praying for them. It's not always an easy job. And as we were kind of saying, apart from the Lord's presence, it's not a job that's even doable. Keep praying for them and pray for us at Answering the Call. And we look forward to coming back at you next month with somebody else. God bless you guys. Thank you for joining us today in the thick of it. Great guest today. I hope that God put something in you today that you can apply and keep with you for a long time. Let me personally thank those of you who continue to pray and who continue to give to the work of Answering the Call in our world's most difficult places as we continue to stay in the thick of it. We invite you to visit us at answeringthecall.org and follow us on Instagram at ATC Missions. We are also on Facebook under Answering the Call. Finally, you can email us at info@answeringthecall.org. Send us any questions you have about today's podcast and any questions you might have about Answering the Call. We would love to get those and be able to respond. And for those of you who do that, we will draw from that pool of names, and for the winner, we will send you the book our guest mentioned today, the book that was influential in their lives. That will be our gift to you. We look forward to being with you again next month in the thick of it. God bless you. Be well as you stay in the thick of it.